Oh yeah, let's go. Hey, 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 yo, come on. Hey, hey.
Welcome everybody to the Fantistics Inside of Baseball podcast. I'm Blasi along with Schuyler Dombroske from Fantistics and InsideOfBaseball.com. Hi, Sky. How we doing?
All right, Lou, what's up, man?
Not much. Let's get the soccer jersey out of the way.
Today we got possibly the best player in the last 20 years, Zlatan Ibrahimovic's Sweden jersey.
Give me the name again.
Zlatan. He should be one name guy.
Okay. All right. Yeah, Zlatan.
He's awesome.
I like the last name though.
Ibrahimovic. Yeah.
All right. So I'm loving this subject today, and I'm loving the list because we're looking at hot pitchers. And as I was thinking before the show here, this is the game right now, isn't it? I mean, we draft pitchers. We try to put a foundation on our pitching staff with some solid pitchers that we think we can depend on if they don't get hurt and all that. And we understand that. But during the course of the season, I spend the most time now riding the hot hand, trying to find emerging guys, trying to find guys who are useful for a couple starts that particular week, a month or two. I mean, this is the game for me right now. This is what I spend the most time doing, trying to scope out and judge pitchers who we don't necessarily, we know the DeGroms, we know the Paul Skeens, we know what they are. There's a lot of pitchers out there. We don't know what they are now, what they were before, what they might be in the future. This is the game right now, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. You and I are very similar in terms of how we develop pitching staff, I think, in most formats. And for me, there's three tiers of guys. There's the tier where you're like, all right, unless something absolutely drastic happens, these are my horses. Mm-hmm. And there's the next tier where it's just guys that I really have faith in their skills, and I'm going to ride them until I'm given a reason not to.
Yep.
And then there's this third tier, which I think this list today can help us with, is finding the hot hand, because like you say all the time, pitchers find stuff, whether it's in a bullpen session, they go to the minors for a couple starts, they go on the IL and work on some stuff while they're rehabbing a hammy or something like that. And all of a sudden it's like, oh man, well, I got another tick and a half on my fastball. And well, here we go. The last guy we're going to talk about today, I wrote him up last night, and I really feel like he's a guy that is completely off the radar. I don't think he's owned above a third in any format. And he's allowed 2 runs or fewer in 8 of his last 10 starts. How is that guy not rostered everywhere?
And this is what we run into when we're doing this at this point, is we run into a lot of bias. And it's important, like we always talk about, pitchers find things and pitchers can change. Now, I'm guessing this is what we're going to be looking at today. Has there been a change that justifies his hotness at this point? And is this something we can lean on going forward? Pitchers find things, rehabs, they find things in a bullpen, they find things talking to an opposing pitcher in the outfield before a series out there. They can find things and they can change themselves completely. It's happening more and more with hitters. You see it with hitters too. You can recognize this in hitters, but pitchers have always been this way. Whether it's placebo, move 6 inches on the rubber, whether it's a grip on a ball, whatever it is, they find stuff and it just changes their whole makeup.
Yeah, put your change in your other pocket, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
There is some of that, I think, because there's so many other variables that go into it too. Particularly early in the season, you get weather games where it's either really difficult to hit, or, as has been the case in Colorado for the past couple of weeks, it's just a hitter's haven.
Yep.
And there's only so much you can do as a pitcher if every fly ball is going to find a spot in the outfield. So there's so much that's random to this. But there's also some things that you can point to, too. And I think probably with a good third of this list, there have been usage pattern changes, or there have been velocity gains, or there's just been a sudden improvement control where, okay, we can hang our hat on something here. This is worth a pickup in many formats, if not all, with a couple of these guys.
Yeah, and that, as we're going to talk about, one of the things we look for here are the 3 pillars of pitching, and control is one of them, limiting walks. And sometimes that's a mechanical change. Sometimes it's just a philosophical change. Sometimes it's just, I'm going to emphasize not walking guys. I'm going to throw first pitch strikes. I'm going to go with the pitch I can control and command best, because I can't be efficient walking guys. That's a new emphasis in baseball, and it's changed some of these pitches for the better.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt about it. I think, and we talk about this every preseason now, but I think it's gone for me. It's walks first, Ks second, keeping the ball on the ground third.Ose are the first 3 things I'm looking at for every pitcher.
Yeah, and that's what I'm looking at when I go to look for, if I need to make a pickup and I need to find a guy, and I'm trying to evaluate what we're looking at here, evaluate some hot guys to see if they're fit for me. That's one of the things I'm looking at, which brings us to Jacob Misiorowski, which I wanted to start with because I know you wrote for the site last night. Great start. And of course, he's been impressive at the beginning. And when I wrote up his prospect profile earlier in the year, and when I've talked about him in the past, here's the thing. Great stuff. Not really in love with his control. And his
great stuff, not positive where it's going.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I think it's still that is still in force. You know, he has looked dominant. He's allowed 3 hits in 16 innings, if I'm not mistaken, through his first 3 outings. But, you know, this level of control is something that he has never shown. And anyone that expects it to continue, I'm pretty certain is going to be sadly disappointed at some point. You know, we're in the honeymoon period, and that absolutely exists, especially for young pitchers that come up and have great stuff.
Yeah.
Guys haven't seen the stuff before. He's topping out at 102.5 on the fastball. You don't see that from a starting pitcher ever. Never. So it's going to take some time for hitters to adjust, but adjust they will. He's a great pitcher. But I saw somebody, a respected analyst online, say that he's already a top 10 guy for next year. I'm like, let's slow our roll a little bit here. We've got 3 starts, okay? I want to see him go through the summer and not have a game where he walks like 6 guys in 4 innings, because that's going to happen.
And is it fair to say we see guys come up, we see hitting prospects come up, and we talk about them being focused on contact early in their career and establishing themselves. And a focus on control is probably what's happening here with Jacob. Even though his control hasn't been great, if you just looked at it the vacuum and you looked at that number, you wouldn't be terribly impressed. But for him, it's impressive because it shows some gains.
Yeah, right.
He just may be focusing. It's kind of we're going to talk about Dylan Cease. It's kind of the Dylan Cease syndrome. It's like, well, okay.
See, I've come full circle on Dylan Cease. Like, I'm in now.
I know.
I couldn't stand the guy before, and now I'm like, yeah, you know, all right, the warts and all, I'm good with it. It's okay. But, you know, maybe it's a function of he ended up on my tout wars team this year, and every single other guy that I drafted is on the IL. Everyone. I have 10 pitchers on the IL. I have no idea how I've been winning lately. I'm just like grabbing guys at the scrap heap and throwing them in there. Like, go get him, Tiger.
I was asked to take over a team in Michael Waldo's league, and it had Dylan Cease, and that's kind of turned me too. It's been the same type of thing. It's like, all right, I kind of like Dylan. I'm okay. I would never touch him otherwise.
Well, the thing with Cease, and we will talk about him a little bit more in depth later this pod, but the thing with Cease is you look at if you don't watch him every start, you look at the stat line and you're like, yeah, he's all right. He misses some bats and stuff, but there's so many really good starts in there. And then every once in a while, it's like he just loses his mind for a start. It's like 3 2/3, 9 hits, 8 runs, 3 walks. Oh, he struck out 5 guys, but, you know, he just blows up. And those do count, and they're totally unpredictable with him. It's not like it's just against good teams or whatever, which sucks. And it keeps him out of that top tier of starting pitching. But most of the time, he's reliable, like 80% of the time. That's more you can say for most guys.
And you can't have enough good mustaches on your team. You just can't.
Spencer Strider, he's back.
Well, he brought it back, right? The walk rate is interesting, and it gives me some pause with Misiorowski. Quality of contact hasn't been great. He's been living off, I think, home run to fly balls at 7.7%. I don't know if that's sustainable. This is going to come around. This walk rate is going to catch up to him at some point.
It will, and if only because, as you mentioned, the quality contact numbers aren't good, and they'll probably never be good because ball go in fast, ball go out fast.
Yep.
So, you know, all you have to do is meet 102-mile-an-hour fastball, and that thing's going out like a rocket. So he's going to probably give up some home runs as time goes by. The first hit he gave up in 11 innings was a 2-run homer. So I think that homers, they're not going to be a major problem for him. But the walks probably will be, because there will be a few home runs in there. There will be hard contact because he throws a lot of hard fastballs. So
he's going to be a good pitcher, but walks are going to limit his.
Yeah, 3 starts, man. People get so tweaky about just tiny sample sizes. Like, let's let this play out a little bit. He's very good. Probably he's going to be a top 20 starting pitcher for me going into next year. Certainly top 30, top 10. No, I think that's highly unlikely.
That having been said, you wouldn't be reluctant to ride him, though, at the right price.
Right now? Oh, goodness, no. No, we're well in the honeymoon period. Guys don't know what 102 looks like repeatedly.
Right.
So, yeah, I think he should be successful for the most part, but there will be a few starts in there where the control gets him. I have no doubt.
And you can ride this. A young pitcher who had stuff can ride that for several starts before the book starts to get out and hitters start to make adjustments. Like you said, they go up and see 102 from a starting pitcher. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Go
exactly.
on to catch up to
I'd
that.
say 6 to 8 starts probably, and
Yeah.
we're at 3 right now. So
Ride him while he's hot. It's
yeah.
just in the long term, I don't know. Because again, that walk rates, and he's shown no ability to control that walk rate. This is the most ability he's shown to control it to this point in his career.
Yeah, and it's 3 starts.
And
So,
yeah.
here's what I have to say about it. The schedule, is difficult enough that we'll know more in 2 weeks. He's got the Mets and the Dodgers coming up next, so
Yep.
we'll see.
Well, the Dodgers start to be interesting.
Yes.
That'll be good. Hopefully I bet the sports book for that and can watch that start.
That's the beginning of a 2-start week for him too, right before the break. So
Yeah.
good
All
time.
right. This list is fascinating. I have shares of a lot of these guys, and I've rotated in and out of them a lot of times, looking at a lot of them. Sonny Gray is a guy who was that second tier you talked about for me, because I had Cole and DeGrom coming in, and there was risk, obviously, but I was looking for them as anchor pitchers. And Sonny Gray was that veteran, rather steady guy that I thought would help anchor that staff a little bit in a number 3 spot behind those two. Of course, Cole got hurt. DeGrom's been up and down, and he's been pitching well lately. Sonny Gray has been less consistent than I hoped he would be to this point.
He has, and it's funny. We use a lot of these other ERA metrics to kind of get a feel for how much good fortune or poor fortune a pitcher might have had so far, and they're split on Sonny Gray.
Yeah.
By one measure, if you look at xFIP, which was one of the traditional measures that I would always use, his xFIP was 282 last year, 311 this year. Like that's really very, very good. We're touching the first tier there. So, awesome stuff. Then you look at xERA, which is kind of a measure of defining quality of contact through sort of neutral luck. And that has him at a 4 ERA, which is much closer to the 372 that he's posted to this point. So what I feel about Sonny Gray, like the stuff is clearly deteriorating. We're losing velocity on the fastball pretty steadily over a decade now, down 2.5 miles an hour, which is not an insignificant amount. And as we're losing the velocity, we're also losing the ground ball rate, which is becoming problematic. And it's why you're seeing the home run rates jump up, which is causing the xFIP to artificially kind of lower itself because, he never allows this many home runs. Well, he does now. It's not the same guy.
Yeah, right.
So you contrast that with the control improvement that has been just significant over the past 5 years. This is the best control that he's shown in his 13-year career. That's pretty impressive. 1.8 walks per 9, and he's still missing bats. He's striking out over a batter an inning, and the swing strike rate was quite low for most of his career, and the last 2 seasons have been the 2 best that he has posted.
Right.
13.5% swing strike rate last year, almost 12 this year. The only 2 chase rates of his career over 30%. So he's been more deceptive, and he's walking fewer guys, but when he gets hit, he's getting hit harder. So I think all told, Sonny Gray's getting close to the point where he is going to lose effectiveness. We probably have another year, 2, maybe 3 for him, depending on speed of decline of actual arm strength. But for now, Sonny Gray, I think, is quite reliable. I think that he's a solid number 2, number 3 starter, a nice guy to slot in there right behind your horse.
I think what we're seeing up until the point where it collapses, like you're predicting, and he's age 35 season. I mean, it's going to come. It comes for all of us. But I think what we're seeing is a diminishing of his margin of error.
Yes.
I think that's what's happening. So on a good, he's going to pitch relatively level because he's a consistent veteran starter. But sometimes the circumstances are going to work for him. Sometimes the circumstances aren't. That one bad pitch coming at the wrong point, or his lack of ability to get the strikeout when he absolutely needs it. Maybe at this point, maybe not going deeper and getting that extra out or 2 on his ERA. I don't know, but his margin of error is really small, which is why he's going to be consistent, but there's going to be an outing every now and again.
There will, and he's mitigated it through the control,
Yeah.
which is, again, we talked about this in the open. That's the first thing I look at for a pitcher, and it's been his biggest strength over the last couple seasons, and it's allowed him to maintain his position as one of the game's probably top 25 to top 30 starters. I think that could continue for quite a bit longer, another year, 2. But at some point, you just lose too much stuff. And, we're 13 years into a career. By any stretch, he's had a very good major league career.
Oh, yeah. And it's been good of late, too. And it's just again, I looked for him for consistency, and all of us who are looking at him for consistency, we get it. But every once in a while, And even that was early in the season. I feel kind of confident of him going forward here in the heat. And once he's got going and he's into his rhythm and stuff like that, I think that's a lot of that is coming out of camp type of issues too.
Yeah, probably so. Especially the veteran guys, a lot of them just kind of use spring training as a ramp up period,
Right.
whereas the young guys are coming in like I'm already ready to go. March is the start of the season. So
yeah. Well, hopefully keep going because I need him. I need him as that number 3. I need that as that steadying influence.
he'll be there for you.
And number 4 behind him right now for me is Clark Schmidt. And I love talking about Yankees with you, and I love talking with you about Yankees that I own a lot of.
Yeah. Clark Schmidt is like the exact opposite of Sonny Gray, where you got the xFIP of 4.25. You got an ERA of 2.84. Clark Schmidt, he does strike me as having been rather fortunate to this point. But the xERA it's the exact opposite. He shows 2.67 because he's been excellent at preventing quality contact so far this year, despite a very high fly ball rate. The hard contact rate has been 25%. So it's been pretty impressive. I like Clark Schmidt, but I can't quite picture him as a top 30 starter. They got the ground ball rate down, the walk rate is up, the K rate's down, 12% swing strike rate. Oh, okay, that's fine. But right now, Clark Schmidt, this is a hot pitchers list in quotation marks. He's 20 2/3 scoreless innings in his last 3 starts.
Yep.
So he's definitely hot right now. And I think he's just not allowing that one big hit at the wrong time, which it's plagued him ever since he came up for the Yankees.
Yeah,
so this year, for whatever reason, it's down.
Because he's exactly that type of pitcher, and we have to be kind of consistent because we just barked at Mizorowski for his walk rate. Clark Schmidt's walk rate isn't great either, and he doesn't strike out as many guys, but he does control quality of contact.
He does, and I think that is perhaps the least predictable of the 3 things that we're looking at most frequently. So that gives me the most pause in terms of recommendations or not.
Which also brings us back to the Sonny Gray margin of error type of situation, because he doesn't have the strikeout to get out of situations that he can find himself in, and just quality of contact's great till you run into a Juan Soto, somewhere in there with the right.
Yeah, I mean that can happen, but I think when I see guys with lower K per 9 rates but higher than average swing strike rates, I have a little more comfort that they can get that swing and miss when they need to.
Yeah.
As opposed to the guys that are getting so many called strikes that, in a big position, I don't think guys are taking that pitch.
Right. So the swing and strike is important, and it shows maybe he's trying to be more efficient on that end. And everyone hates the phrase pitch to contact, but he's that kind of guy.
It seems to me that he's doing that a little bit more this year for sure. I've actually, I've seen less of him than I probably should have at this point this year. I have not watched as many Yankee games the last 3 weeks or so. I've been traveling a lot, and obviously got a lot of sun too. I haven't been able to catch his starts for whatever reason. So I'm going to make it a point to do so. I'm in town for a couple of weeks. I'm going to try to catch him the next couple times out and see what I see.
Yeah, he's almost already a veteran quality starter where he just knows how to pitch. It's a knowing how to pitch situation as opposed to overpowering people with stuff.
Yeah, I think so. And you know what amazed me? Of how many 29-year-olds are on this list? Like exactly 29. I think there's 6. That's 40% of the list. That's kind of weird.
Is that the prime?
Maybe it's right in the middle of prime. So sure, probably.
You got to work with the. I think you got to work with the model like we have the on baseball on hitters. We have the 1,200 at bats and 2 years of regular playing time, that type of thing. I think innings pitched has to do with it too. And in your role, for example, guys coming out of the bullpen and becoming starters, it's hard to judge them because you have no track record to go on. So.
Yeah, plus they definitely are going to pitch differently, having to go through the lineup 2 or 3 times than they will having to just pitch to 5 or 6 batters. I had never thought that applied to pitchers like it applies to hitters, because you see so many pitchers come up and immediately have success because they've got good stuff or they don't. And, guys that have good stuff is going to play. But, looking at this list and seeing the ages of these guys, there are very few young pitchers on this list. So...
Well, there's still things to be learned. You can have stuff, but there's still things to be learned, which is why I think in recent years, and I was talking about this locally on one of the stations locally, with the GM of the New Hampshire Fisher Cats. It's like it was several years ago that there was AA and then there was the majors, and AAA was kind of like a holding squad, practice squad type of team. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think hitters have to go through AAA. I think pitchers have to go through AAA as well. I think it's becoming more of a step than it had been, say, 5 years ago.
Yeah, I think you're right. Just from watching things, I see a lot of guys, even if it's just a couple weeks in AAA, I think they're getting a little more acclimated to better breaking pitches, a little more nibbling, maybe stuff like that.
Yep. It was funny, the discussion up here when Roman Anthony came up and Marcelo Mayer was up at that point, and they weren't hitting them against lefties. And the discussion, and this is from color guys, former players at this point, what they were talking about was they hit lefties in the minors, they hit lefties in AAA, and they did pretty well. Why aren't they playing against lefties in the majors? And it's like, well, if there were any good left-handers in the minors in AAA,
they're in the majors.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. But
a big gap with that left-hander jump from, say, AAA to the majors.
There is, but I still feel like young kids, and I wrote up Jason Dominguez yesterday, and he's gotten hot again. He was 4 for 5 last night, 2 doubles, 2 steals. He started 5 of the last 10 games. 22-year-old kids, and let's put Yankee hyperbole aside. This is a kid that was compared to Mickey Mantle 6 years ago. Absurdity at the height of absurdity, but
no, a good prospect.
Yeah, yes. That's what you're supposed to draw from that. Yes.
Yeah.
But you cannot expect guys in age 20 to 25 when they're in their peak development years to get that development sitting on the bench half the time.
Right.
And I just don't if you're not going to play him every day. Right now, you have 7 guys for 5 spots for the Yankees. You've got Ben Rice, Paul Goldschmidt, Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, Trent Grisham, Jason Dominguez, and I'm missing somebody here, but Clay Bellinger. So you got those 7 guys. 2 of those guys are sitting every day. They all should be playing. Now, Trent Grisham, I can get behind platooning because he has shown that he does not hit lefties great, not like the rest of the guys do. But Dominguez doesn't hit lefties very well
recently as well, right?
What's that?
He's cooled recently as well.
Actually, he's heated back up. He was cool for a while, and just the last week or so, he started to hit again. But Trent Grisham, what I wrote last night about this topic is that Trent Grisham has made this a problem.
Yeah, because
he was supposed to be the backup, the defensive replacement, starts once a week, etc. But he's finally playing as he always has been capable of playing. He had 2 or 3 years of just horrible BABIP luck. He's a good hitter. He's a good contact hitter. Very good plate discipline, has power, has speed, great defensive center fielder. He's a good player that had bad luck for a few years, so they just pigeonholed him as a 5th outfielder. That was dumb. So now you've got this problem. They have to clear this logjam. They need another starter. The situation is just ripe for a trade. I have no confidence that they're going to make a good trade, though, because Brian Cashman the last 5, 6, 7 years is just, I don't know what he's doing, but.
And don't talk to a Red Sox fan about trades.
Yeah. What about that Devers trade? That's a weird lineup now you guys are running out.
Yeah, and it was kind of the same situation where there was a log jam and you wanted to get these guys in. I mean, Devers, there was an extra element to this in Devers' reluctance to play anywhere and being Devers at this point. And there's a lot of blame to go around on this, but that was and it just brought up all the problems that the fans have with the ownership of the Red Sox, which is it was a salary dump. That's basically what it was.
I feel like, and this is my outsider viewpoint with Boston, I feel like this was in motion months ago.
Yes.
When Devers just, whatever he did, where he wouldn't play first base, he felt betrayed. The organization felt betrayed. Then the fans felt betrayed. And once that happens, just forget it. It's all over.
Well, I thought it was in motion before that when he showed up to spring training.
Yeah, but I mean, like we just talked about, that's a veteran thing.
Yeah, well,
he kind of has earned that latitude. I thought, for me, he had.
Yeah,
as an outsider.
There's a way to do it, and there's a way not to do it, right?
I suppose. I guess I'm not privy to exactly everything that was said and done there, like I would be with the Yankees.
Well, he was offended by the signing of Alex Bregman and his being moved from third base even before spring training opened. So that all
he's your guy. He's your star. So, yeah, I mean, if he wasn't consulted, then I think that's on ownership. That's on whomever should be doing the communicating there, because If you're
Plenty of
not
blame to
telling your
go
best
around.
player when you're doing something like that to usurp his position on the team, it's on you.
Plenty of blame to go around. Obviously, they didn't know, and I don't think they knew they were going to sign Bregman, so they didn't want to have the talk with him beforehand, because why stir up problems, when you may not even be able to sign the player. But here's the thing about it is all that is true, and we can pass the blame around on that at the beginning. But at the point Cassis went down and there was an opportunity for him to play first base and he refused to, just out of ego, that was a problem.
That's I think when everything came to a head. Well, he just felt disrespected from the jump and was like, "Oh yeah, you need me? Well, sorry."
Yeah, but you put a player puts that aside.
Some players put that aside.
Somebody,
A team leader puts that aside. I don't think Devers was perhaps ever the best choice to be a team leader. He's kind of one of those quiet guys. Some guy like Aaron Judge was this same way for years, and then just whatever happened, he decided I have to be more of a vocal leader for this team. Devers never made that decision.
Yeah, but Judge could do it. You just didn't want to piss off Judge. If you were a player in that locker room, you just didn't want to piss off Judge. I don't think anyone can. First of all, again, if you've watched The Clubhouse on Netflix, and I recommend you all watch the first 2 or 3 episodes, which is all I could stand. The Red Sox clubhouse is a mess, and it's a bunch of kids that are just totally screwed up. So God knows what was going on down there.
Yeah. What did you think about the package that they got, though? I was nonplussed.
No, there's nothing. I mean, Harrison, we've all liked Harrison early on, and we've been disappointed with his progress to this point. And I guess there's a little potential there. That's about it. I mean, but that's what made it so obviously a salary dump, right? And the story behind it was, I don't know if you've heard the story. The story behind it was that Breslow was trying to make a baseball trade of this and trying to get all of the salary. And there was an ownership call to the Red Sox ownership and said, you want us to take all the salary, you got to get past wanting guys back, right?
Well, okay.
So they bypassed the general managers. And of course, John Henry's like, yes, take all the salary. I don't care. So that's basically what happened.
That's disappointing.
Well, I mean, I don't know that he said that, but it's pretty evident that he said that.
Right.
That was the priority in a trade, to give up all the salary.
Flags fly forever or something, right?
Yeah, it's funny you say that.
When does the honeymoon stop?
Funny you say that, because in the press conference afterwards, they talked about, I think if you look at the Red Sox, I think if you look at our record over the past 25 years, we've been the best team in baseball. All right, but how about the last 8?
What have you done for me lately?
I'm sorry. There's a bunch of last place finishes in there in the last 8. And I recognize all the championships and I understand it, but not the same team, not the same philosophy, not the same approach. So it's
not. And soon that honeymoon period always ends, whether it takes like 20 years for the Cubs or whether it takes like 2 minutes for the Red Sox. I mean, the fan bases are the fan bases.
I think we've been pretty good for a while, actually.
Well, I mean, I suppose it's all relative. We still look at it. We outside look at it like, well, I mean, you guys did win a lot for a long time.
Well, when you're paying what you're paying for tickets, and when you're paying what you're paying for Nesson, and when you're paying what you're paying for parking, when they
look, man, I don't begrudge any fan base for complaining anytime ownership doesn't seem to be doing their utmost to win. I will never have issue with that.
All right, Christopher Sanchez, has he made the leap? Has Christopher Sanchez found the next level?
Yeah, I think he has. For whatever reason, he seems to just never be talked about when you're talking about the best 20 pitchers in baseball.
I know.
I feel like he's there. Just wonderful control. It's regressed a bit this year, but how could it not regress from like 1.5 walks per 9? He's among the best in the game still. The K numbers are finally up, what people have been looking for. I think it was always in there. We've talked about this for years with him, where he'd had the swinging strike rates. He just wasn't really going for Ks.
Yeah,
the high ground ball rate shows that. He's kind of, the term pitch to contact is probably a bit overused, but these really high ground ball rates from guys that get high swinging strike rates without high K rates is just indicative to me of a particular pattern of pitching where they're just trying to get guys to hit the ball on the ground. They want to get them in pitchers counts so that they can make them swing for that.
Yeah, we're old school. We can't use pitch to contact. We've got to use efficiency. They're just trying to be more efficient.
I'm using it.
Strikeouts and walks aren't efficient.
Nobody can stop me. I'm going to say it.
It's what it is. And it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, the quality
You do it
contact has regressed a bit. It's still pretty average.
Yep.
Velo's up, chase rate's down, but the swing strike rate is up to 13% now, which, now you're vaulting into that like second tier of strikeout pitchers, which would we ever have thought Sanchez could be mentioned in that? I mean, I had my hopes, but I wasn't sure. And other people always, oh, he's a low K pitcher. I don't think so at all. He just hasn't been trying to get them. 4 straight quality starts. For me, Sanchez is a top 20 guy. By the end of the year, he could be knocking on the door of an SP1. And I don't think you're going to find a lot of people agreeing with me on that. But this dude is steady. I'd be perfectly to have him certainly as my second starting pitcher. But if he's my first, I'm probably not all that unhappy. Do
we agree he's not a sub-3 ERA pitcher? I mean,
do we agree? I don't know that I do agree.
Okay.
Over under around 3. I'm going to be hard pressed to make a call.
That 80%, 80.6% left on base percentage. He's going to have a hard time sustaining that 287. But here's the thing: he does all the things we want him to do really well. He strikes out guys, keeps the ball on the ground, he keeps the ball in the ballpark. He doesn't walk guys. I mean, and he's doing that exceptionally well at this point in limiting contact. I'm not afraid of that contact at all. That's fine, especially when you're not putting guys on base in front of him and you're keeping the ball in the ballpark, especially with the Phillies.
Yeah, I mean, I love that, and the 2 straight years of velocity jumps. Like when you're looking for improvements in pitching, that is the first, most glaring, most obvious thing to see. Increase in velocity equals increase in Ks, and as long as it doesn't come with a significant degradation in control, it is almost unilaterally a good thing until something goes sprawling.
Yeah, and it just makes he lived off his changeup, and that increase in velocity just makes the changeup that much more effective. Makes everything that more effective.
Precisely, yes.
So that's what's happening here. Sometimes a half a foot makes a huge difference.
Oh, a couple inches.
Yep.
I mean, we're talking about round bat, round ball.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of margin for error for hitters.
But it just everything else. It's funny how it can lift the whole rest of your arsenal. Just that extra, an extra
1 mile an hour.
Yep.
And he's up 2.5 over the last couple seasons. So
we get a lot of grief because we make fun of the whole 10 mile an hour delta and how important that is. I think that's a switching point. I think that's a cascading effect. You get to 10 miles an hour on your pitch differential, and I'll include sliders in there as well. You can get to 10 miles an hour. That's a very important point because hitters cannot straddle those 2 velocities at that point.
That plus the tunneling. If it comes out of the same exact spot, it's almost unrecognizable. You're just guessing.
Robert Suárez, as I went to Fangraphs this morning to get ready for the show, the headline
Ranger
Suárez is the hottest pitcher on the planet.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, is it okay to call him like a poor man's Christopher Sanchez?
Sure. Why not?
I feel like these 2 guys are relatively similar pitchers, same organization, and they always seem to be just kind of glossed over because they don't have the big gaudy K rates. But there is more to pitching than just striking guys out. And again, here comes my rant every single week. Roto style ruins us in terms of player analysis because we end up looking for things that are really just not relevant in the grand scheme of things. All you're looking for are Ks and stolen bases, it seems to me, when you're trying to value people based on Roto, and it's dumb. It's a sophomoric way of player analysis.
Saves and stolen bases and Ks.
Just goofiness. So Suárez, the walks are down. The ground ball rate is up 53%, 3% under Christopher Sanchez. Very, very similar profiles, except Ranger Suárez doesn't have the massive velo gains. And he's got an excellent quality of contact against, though. And this is years in the making. So this is a guy that we can pretty safely say limits quality contact. So sure, the K rate's not huge. It's only a 9.4% swing strike rate, too. So he just does not miss bats, but he limits damage. And that's as important just about, except for Roto purposes. 9 straight quality starts. This guy, like you said, he's the hottest pitcher around. And I think he's tremendously underrated.
Here's an important pivot point where we can just talk against analytics at this point. You look at the Stuff Plus ratings on Ranger Suárez, and they're all below average. They're all average or below. He's not a stuff pitcher, but he's a pitcher, and he puts it all together in an effective way. And the way we can vet that is the way we've always done it with the 3 pillars of starting pitching: strikeouts, walks, home run rate or ground ball rate. He does that all exceptionally well. You don't have to have great stuff. You don't have to strike out everybody. And again, pitch to contact. Everyone hates it. It's old school. But that's basically, he's very effective at it.
He is. No one throws 9 straight quality starts without being a good pitcher. Nobody. You can get lucky for 2, 3, 4. Well, I mean, how many does Adrian Hauser have in a row? 5. Okay, so 5. You can get lucky for 5, but I'm not buying anything more than that. And Ranger Suárez, man, I mean, the ground ball rate is probably, because of the way that we value players, I think it's the most overlooked metric.
Yes.
When you're trying to analyze starting pitching. Because if you give up a ground ball rate of, let's say, like 60%, singles and doubles, like if you make a mistake, that's what you're giving up, singles and doubles. You have a fly ball rate of 55%, you're giving up triples and homers when you make a mistake. I mean, these problems are just magnified with a lower ground ball rate. So we talk about margin of error. You have no margin of error. That's why we talk about Sonny Gray now is living on a fine line because the ground ball rate just continues to drop every season.
Right.
So now he's giving up more fly balls. Well, if one catches the barrel, it's gone. It's not a double into the left field corner. So, I just feel like Ranger Suárez, guys like him, Logan Webb, Christopher Sanchez in the past until this velocity bump, like these guys get overlooked because they're just not flashy.
I'm just trying to look, and I screwed it up with Fangraphs here, but just, what we have to do in these situations is, again, this is the whole exercise of the last couple of weeks, holding players up to a different light and looking at them. Do you know he gave up 7 runs in his first start?
Yeah. And not since, right?
Yeah. Not since, right?
Nothing since.
One 3-run start in his since then.
Oh yeah. He's been lights out. And it's one of those Logan Webb-esque kind of runs where 7 innings, 2 runs, 6 innings, 2 runs, 7 innings, 1 run. And it's just, a lot of ground balls, strike out 5 guys, 6 guys per outing. And you think, oh, well, all right, it's just another fine Ranger Suárez start. And before you know it, he's strung together 10 in a row.
That's kind of an eerie good comp, isn't it? Logan Webb, especially.
I mean, lefty versus righty, but very similar profiles.
Yeah. Up until Logan Webb upped his swing and strike a little bit more,
He has, and I think, I believe this to be within the capability of pitchers like this, because you're not seeing the numbers because they're not trying for that. If he wanted to miss more bats, I think he could, but he wouldn't go as deep into games. So, he's decided that this is the lesser of 2 evils, and I'm inclined to agree with him. You want your middle reliever pitching, or do you want Ranger Suárez, who has 9 straight quality starts, pitching?
All right, so you take out this is what I wanted to do. This is what I was trying to do, and I kept screwing it up on Fangraphs. Dropped the first start of the season, 7 runs in 3 2/3 innings, 1.17 ERA.
Call me crazy, but I think that's pretty good.
That's very good. FIP of 293 and an XFIP of 344, which
and in that ballpark too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Phillies have a great pitching staff. They really do.
It's just incredible what he's done.
It is, and under the radar. I mean, I don't see people talking about him.
And it's all there because this is not the pitcher we look for. This is not the type of pitcher we look for. We don't look for pitch to contact type of pitcher.
You know why? Because strikeouts is a category.
Because Roto is stupid.
Stupid. Sorry, I feel how I feel.
No, we gotta get there every show now. It's kind of a thing.
Yeah, it's kind of a dumb thing, but I mean, obviously, like 80% of the industry plays that. But
why are we talking about Mitch Keller?
I don't know. He's on this list. That's why we're talking about him. I don't like Mitch Keller. I've never liked Mitch Keller. I don't ever roster Mitch Keller. He is a perpetual bag of potential. And I use that in the most negative sense of the word. Walks are down, but Ks are way down. The homer per 9 rate has been cut in half, and that's why he's on this list. Somehow he's evaded summer to this point. I don't think that's going to continue. The quality contact is below average, and that's all showing in the homer per 9 rate. But an 8.7% swinging strike rate, no way.
I know, and it's so this is someone who's not doing well. I mean, he's keeping the ball in the ballpark, and he's not walking a ton of guys, but it's not super exciting walking. stingy on walks, and he's just not striking out guys. And the 6.3% home and fly ball is what bothers me. I mean, his career is over 10. His career is over 11, actually. So he's just been lucky to this point. As you said, he's avoided summer.
He has. I'll give you 1 point in his favor and then one overriding point against.
Okay.
The point in his favor is the last 6 starts when he's been hottest, and that's why he shows up on this list. His ground ball rate has jumped to almost 60%.
Oh,
so he's really found something that's working over the last month or so. But I'm gonna totally counteract what I just said when we were talking about Christopher Sanchez and Ranger Suárez. You do need to be able to strike out guys.
Yes.
Like, you don't always have to strike guys out, but you need to be able to do it. And Mitch Keller has shown for 7 years that he can't strike guys out. He cannot get guys to swing and miss. So when you can't strike guys out and you still don't have an excellent walk rate, sooner or later, something is going to bite you.
Yep.
So for me, this is just a hot run by a mediocre pitcher. If you want to ride it for a while, because Pittsburgh is a good hitter or a good pitcher's park, and if you want to ride Keller and use him for matchups, okay, I'm all right with that. But I am certainly not going out of my way to grab Mitch Keller in hopes of catching lightning in a bottle, because sooner or later you're going to get struck by it.
But that increase in ground ball rate that's not luck, especially over 6 starts. He's found a little bit of something.
He has. And we talk about this all the time. Pitchers do find things.
Yep.
He can sustain some level of success here, but we're just getting into summer. I think summer happened on Monday here this year. So it was 96. We're right back to rain and 70 today. So
yeah, exactly.
Whatever. So I think that, you're going to get warmer weather. He's going to have to go to Cincinnati. He's going to have to go to Wrigley. And these things, when you can't miss bats, sooner or later, that's going to bite you.
And
I don't love Mitch.
Hitters catch up.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Tape gets out.
To whatever you're doing.
Right.
Because he's not overpowering. So sooner or later, they're going to figure out how to get to him.
So what happens with these pitchers who can't strike out guys, and he's all right with walks, but he's not great. And what happens is they give up homers. So at the point where the homers start to come back, and his ground ball rate is great, and it's helping him to this point, and it's working. I don't know if he can sustain this ground ball rate. That's the problem.
Well, the 1 year that he was able to post a ground ball rate of close to 50%, despite his other issues, he managed an ERA of 3.90.
Yeah.
So if he can maintain this, a high 3s ERA, and hence a better than league average ERA, is certainly in play. The ceiling here is just too low for my liking, given the floor.
Yeah, again, because he can't strike guys out, and you need to be able to do that to some extent. I mean,
you have to be able to do it. You don't have to always do it.
Right, because you get in situations where you need a punch out.
Absolutely.
José Soriano.
Now this is different.
Okay.
Soriano, he's really, really impressing me lately. And again, I counteract the things that I say as like maxims all the time. So just, ignore me as far as that goes. But Soriano is really not a good control pitcher at all. And it's the first thing I look at, which is why I dismissed him for a while. But, poor K rate, poor walk rate. Yeah. 2/3 of the balls hit are on the ground. And if you never give up home runs, you could be pretty successful with a lot of other warts. And that's kind of where we are with Soriano, in my opinion. Exit velocity against is poor. But when you have a negative launch angle, okay, whatever. They hit a lot of hard ground balls. That's fine. Some of those are double plays.
Yep.
Swing strike rate's 11.5% also. So, again, we're getting into this kind of Christopher Sanchez with terrible control sort of an area where he can miss bats. He has pretty good stuff. But he's really just trying to get you in a count where you can hit that 2-seamer straight into the ground. That's what he wants. That's what he's been doing. So you've got no homers in 11 starts, 3 straight quality starts, 28 Ks and 21 innings pitched in his last 3 starts. So he's found something there as well. All of a sudden, I'm looking at José Soriano and thinking, man, if this guy ever gets some control, he's going to be an ace.
Oh, I know. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And the whole strikeout thing is interesting. He can strike a guy out when he needs to, but when he gets into a situation where he needs a strikeout, he's looking for a ground ball. He's not looking for a strikeout.
No, he's not looking for a strikeout most of the time. Like if there's a guy on first, for example.
Right.
But I've seen him when he gets, a second and third, one out, he'll go for the K and he can get it. He's got really electric stuff. I'm kind of enamored with this kid. I think he's pretty good. By the way, one of the few guys under prime age on this list. I believe there were 3. He's one of them.
And no history of controlling his walk rate. So
no, which is why we get back to the Mizorowski thing. Like, okay, sooner or later, walks will hurt you. And that's what keeps Soriano's floor pretty low, because he really just does not have good control. The ball moves a lot.
Do we have to add a third type of control issue? Because we talk about fear or mechanics, right?
Or lack of ability. I think that's where we are.
Or I was thinking stuff. Is it just he has enough stuff? Because his stuff plus grades aren't great, but does he have trouble locating because
that was the Edward Cabrera thing, right?
Yeah.
It's that category where everything moves so much,
Yep.
he just can't even keep it in the strike zone. He's probably trying to throw it down the middle every time.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I think there are those kind of guys. Yes, I think you're right. Where there's just so much movement, so much action on everything that, the catcher's just slapping the glove up there like, dude, just throw your stuff. Hopefully it'll be near the zone.
I'm going to watch his next at and watch the catcher now trying to zone up on him.
I bet that's what knows where it's going. Honestly, because it's a West Coast team and it's not the Dodgers, I don't get a lot of game chances to watch José Soriano. But I have watched him a couple times this year. He pitched against the Yankees. His stuff is lively.
Well, that's one of the things I look for when I'm watching pitchers, or if I'm going to the minor league level and watching pitchers. I'm watching targets the catcher's putting up, how well he's hitting it. If the catcher's chasing it around, and sometimes it's control, sometimes it's stuff. It's just like there's so much action on this ball, I don't know what I'm going to get.
Yeah, and those are the guys where the catcher just puts his mitt in the same spot every time. It's like, all right, I'm ready. I'm hockey goalie time.
I know where it's going to break, but I have no idea where it's going.
Exactly. Yep.
So watch Jose's walk rate, because that's going to be a key here. He's pitching pretty effectively with a high walk rate. If you could just add some control. But again, I don't think he's afraid of it. I think he's just trying to get contact and trying to get ground balls. I don't think he's trying to throw strikes. He's trying to get people to hit the ball on the ground. So he works at the bottom of the zone and tries to fool people and get them to hit a ball out of the zone. And I think he's trying to work out of the zone a lot.
I honestly think he doesn't care. I think he's just throwing it with as much movement on it as he can. And, if he were just walking last year's level of guys with this year's stuff, he'd have an ERA under 3. So, this guy, the ceiling is astronomical with José Soriano. The floor is rather low. Any guy, and I include Mizorowski in here, any guy with a walk rate over 4/9, the floor is low.
Yeah. You don't want to see that. You don't want to mess with that. It's
just too many free passes. Major league hitters are good.
Okay, can we buy into it? His home run and fly ball rate is down to 7.3 after 11 the year before, 14.8 the year before, but there's been a similar increase in ground ball rate along. Can we buy into this home run and fly ball rate? That's not particularly, there's some luck in there, but it's not super. We can't write it off totally as luck because he's throwing the ball on the ground more.
I think we can almost dismiss it because there are so few fly balls in general. One more home run would boost that a couple percent.
True.
So I'm not concerned about that number being out of whack at all. He just doesn't allow fly balls. So an extra home run or two in the summer months is sort of negligible in the grand scheme of things, I think.
I don't know what's more impressive, the 65.7% ground ball rate or the -3.5 launch angle.
The second one.
Yeah.
I mean, when you've got a launch angle as Yandy Diaz's career launch angle, you're doing pretty good as a pitcher.
You're doing really good as a pitcher. Another interesting comp.
He turned everybody into Yandy Diaz.
You're into Yandy Diaz.
I love Yandy Diaz. Don't let him hear me slander him. He'll crush me with those biceps.
I didn't take that as slander. It's just,
I know. I love him. I think he's an awesome player.
Yandy is who he is.
Yep.
All right. Speaking of he is who he is, Dylan Cease, we talked about him earlier. And again, both of us own him this year. I don't know how often you've owned him in the past, but I own him now, and I've kind of warmed up to him a little bit.
I've never owned him in the past.
Me neither.
This was an example of my Tout Wars team this year was so bizarre because I had so many guys that I've always completely shunned in the past that they were the only values that showed up for me in the auction. So
Tout Wars we've talked about it in the past. Tout Wars is a different format in that innings are what's most important. So you'll reach a little bit. You'll look outside your typical model of a pitcher.
Yes, and innings are more important than things like strikeouts quality starts are more important than like anything.
Yeah.
So I've actually unfortunately been saddled with a million pitcher injuries, and somehow my team, despite being in the top couple in quality starts, has 10 more losses than any other team.
Yeah.
I'm just been victimized by no run support for my pitchers. And
because that format penalizes what we're talking about today. The ability, what we talked about in terms of your fourth and fifth starter, if you have them, just rotating through this pool and trying to find guys to fill in.
oh, I'm on starters like 12
Oh, yeah.
through 18 right now.
Yeah.
So I know what you're supposed to do. It's smoke and mirrors at this point. I'm trying to stay in the race till everybody comes back, which I'm a half a game out of the playoffs right now, miraculously.
Well, there you go.
If I make the playoffs with this team this year, it will be the best management job that I have ever done. I've never turned over a roster so much. I'm putting like 30 fab bids in every week. I just can't keep guys healthy. I have two of my three best hitters on the IL and an entire pitching staff outside of Dylan Cease on the IL.
It seems simple. You bring me to a point because it seems simplistic, but I don't know how many people ever check this in their leagues or whatever. Look at the transactions. The guys with the highest transactions usually do the best. It's a real simple link. It's a real simple correlation. I think the guys who, because we put a lot of emphasis on the start of the season in the draft. And again, you don't win seasons in the draft. You can lose them in the draft, but you don't win them. You got to go through the year and you got to work hard throughout the year.
You do. Last year, I was blessed with pretty good health. So I was not among the leaders in transactions. I was probably lower middle of the pack, but I'm generally a pretty patient manager. You know, I'm the one that coined the National Day of Potential Concern. Like, I'm not flipping my roster over in the first 6 weeks of the season. You just made a decision. Why would you immediately go back on your own decision? That's dumb.
Oh, no, I wasn't talking about flipping your roster over. I was talking about having those. I've talked about flex spots for years.
Yes, that's where I was going to go with this. You were the first guy that told me about that over a decade ago, and I've incorporated that into a lot of my roster management over the years because I think it is important to not get married to a spot and to have the ability to pick up either hot players or some guy gets called up that you didn't expect and he's an impact player.
Pick up a spec. It gives you room to pick up a spec player. It gives you room to pick up a hot player. It gives you room. And it's like, things have been going in my house league. Things have been going so well. I haven't been making claims lately. And it's kind of frustrating. It's like, I want to see that guy, but I don't know.
Everything's good. I don't want to upset the apple cart. Don't break it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that gets boring to an extent.
Yeah.
This has been a very exciting year for me. I think I went 0-8 over a 4-week stretch, and I was traveling. So I'm like trying to throw bids in a hotel with terrible Wi-Fi in like Orange, Virginia. Like, give me a break, man. I shouldn't be having to do this.
Too many of us have been there.
Yeah. Yeah. These guys, I mean, what is an underrated aspect of fantasy baseball management is time in front of a computer.
Yeah. Well, I've got my phone now. I'm doing a lot on my phone.
I can't use that website on my phone.
I know it's tough.
That website is.
Oh yeah, that's horrible.
Subpar.
Yahoo is tough.
Trying to be politic about it.
I finally let go of Doyle. Finally.
You had to.
Yeah.
You had to. He's a complete disappointment. And this was always the thing with him. The ceiling is so high, but the floor is so low. Contact rate's horrible.
Yeah. And he's got things going on, and it's been a tough year for him as well. And I was kind of waiting for him to get hot. It seemed like he was one of those piles of tinder in search of a match type of thing.
Yeah, well, he didn't find one. He found a lot of rain instead.
Yeah.
But this is why, we talk about Joe Adell, who everybody's just gaga over again because he has 10 homers in the month of June.
Yep.
But guys with 16.5% swinging strike rates have no floor.
Yep.
Joe Adell is going to go through an 0-for-40 slump, and everybody's going to cut him.
But
that's who he is.
The whole flex philosophy here is you can take Joe Adell with peace of mind, knowing that you can drop him at any point.
Yeah, you just hope you don't drop him after the 0-for-30 week.
Well, that's part of playing the game, right?
you hope you get the timing right. And in that sense, it's so much like my normal job, which is I hate trying to time things because you're going to be wrong a bunch of the time.
Yep. All right, so Dylan Cease, 4.43 ERA. It hasn't been great, but it seems I have a better impression than that ERA.
It's 2 bad starts.
Yeah.
Yes, I know they count. And the infuriating thing about Cease is you can't predict them because you don't know when his control is just going to desert him for the day. So you just suck it up. His ERA is not going to be ideal, but the velocity's up again. The chase rate's up again. The swing strike rate is 16.4%. It's among the league leaders. He is elite at missing bats. Ergo, he's a pretty good pitcher. You're going to have to deal with the warts with Cease. He just is going to have a half dozen or fewer blow up starts in a year. And he's gotten away from the 4+ walks per 9. He's down under 3.5 last year and this year, which is very palatable. And despite a pretty low ground ball rate, he's managed to avoid home runs, and he's done it for years in a row now. So this isn't like, oh, I don't know when that home run to fly ball rate's going to adjust. I think he's just able to avoid bad hard contact a lot of the time. So he's just a very good pitcher. Will probably never be an ace because the command just isn't quite good enough. But he's a good number 2 that's just going to really upset you from time once a month, probably.
The bad stats are so interesting. Just looking at the game long, it's the 9 runs against the Athletics early on, his 3rd start of the year. But the second one is fascinating because he pitched against the Dodgers and threw 7 shutout innings with 5 walks. By the way, 7 shutout innings with 5 walks. He struck out 11 in that start, and then came up and pitched again against them 5 days later and gave up 6 runs in 5 innings. Only walked 1 and struck out 9. This is
he changed his tact. Apparently, walking them was the right choice.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we should walk some of these guys more.
I don't. He's just sort of enigmatic. You like. He's not a streaming candidate because you like your streaming candidates to pitch well against garbage teams and struggle against good teams because that cognitively makes sense. But with Dylan Cease, you just have no idea. Any given day, he could get knocked around by a AA team. He could shut out the all-star team over 7 innings and strike out 15. You have no idea what you're going to get. It's
That's what I was kind of getting at. That's what I was kind of getting at. He's a strong starter, but you see the LA Dodgers and you see him walk 5 and get out with 7 shutout innings, and he's facing the Dodgers again next time. You take a pass on that, right?
I start him. I mean, you start him all the time because at any time he could go 7 shutout and strike out double digits at any time against anyone because his stuff is that good.
I'd be willing. The second start against the Dodgers was at Dodger Stadium. That was rolling the dice.
Dodger Stadium is an interesting offensive environment because it's very much a plus home run park and a negative run scoring park.
Yeah.
It's just a weird environment.
Yeah, and it's so different from what the perception of it is because it's supposed to be a pitching-friendly park, but it's not.
Straight pitcher's park.
Yep. All right, Dean Kremer. Why do we have to talk about?
We don't have to talk about Dean Kremer. That's fine.
No, let's talk about Dean Kremer.
What did I always write like a synopsis, either a 1 word or a little sentence at the end.
I can't think of a pitcher in Major League Baseball I'm less interested in.
Well, interestingly enough, my 1 word is uninspiring.
Yeah, exactly.
So there you go. That sums up Dean Kremer. Uninspiring.
But are we writing him off too early because he does?
No, we're not. We're writing him off at the right time.
Okay, great. Thanks.
His quality of contact is decent, but the ground ball rate's down, Ks are down, walks are down. 9% swing strike rate. There is nothing interesting about Dean Kremer. He is the quintessential, well, I guess if I have to.
Exactly. He's the guy on MLB The Show that would have like a fake name. He's
Joe Smith.
Joe Smith. He's one of those guys.
Yep, exactly.
All right. So what we see is what we get, right? Isn't it?
Yeah, no, there's nothing interesting here.
Yeah, it's kind of his walk rates a little bit, has been hot a little bit of lately, but it's all going to come back.
Yeah, there's nothing interesting.
He is what he is.
I've really researched Dean Kremer, and I will tell you, there's nothing interesting.
Good. Then my instincts are good on that one. Will Warren shows up on your list. What's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, another Yankee, 2 Yankees. Maybe our starting pitching is really good after all. Yeah, I don't think so. We've got a guy here in Will Warren that people alternatively talk about as completely disappointing or really intriguing. And I think that Yankee fans, much like Red Sox fans, are judgmental of our own players to a fault.
Yeah.
Well, Will Warren forces
one way or the other.
Oh, well, I mean, usually it's they can do no right, even when they're doing right.
Right.
So we're both just overly critical, I think. Really passionate fan bases have a tendency to be that way.
But the Yankees fans, if they're in the minors, they can't do anything wrong.
And then as soon as they come up, they can't do anything right.
Anything right, exactly right.
Cue Anthony Volpe's music.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
God, ridiculous. He's actually better this year. Yeah, people are yelling at him every day. Like the kid he's fine. He's just not a star. Well, maybe we should reassess our expectations when they're in the minors, like before they get up.
That's the key, and that's what we try to do here all the time. Is like you adjust your expectations, get them realistically, so you can make good decisions based on a realistic expectation of what the player is.
Yes, instead of the next Mickey Mantle.
Right.
There is no next Mickey Mantle.
There is no next Mickey
There's
Mantle.
one Mickey Mantle.
Yep.
Anyway, Will Warren, xFIP a 312, xERA a 358. Every advanced ERA metric that we have shows that Will Warren has been very unfortunate and has a pretty good ceiling. And he's one of the Yankee prospects, actually, that just was so disappointing in his rare call-ups that people just kind of forgot about him. He has pretty decent stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, the quality of contact is terrible. He hasn't figured out his control is okay. His command is bad. He misses in the strike zone and just gets tattooed. 24% line drive rate is bad. 10.5% swing strike rate is merely a little below league average, so not super exciting. But, you know, he's had a good last 9 starts except at the Dodgers, which you can forgive anyone for that. Will Warren, to me, looks like more of a traditional streamer right now, where you just sit him against teams that are really power laden, high run scoring. You know, maybe you avoid the top 8 or 10 offenses, but anybody else, I'm probably on board with Will Warren right now. He's a good, solid back end starter, and by back end starter, I mean you don't put him in against really good offenses if you can help it.
If he were throwing the ground balls at the rate that we were promised from his minor league stat lines, he'd be a very good pitcher. Why haven't we seen those ground ball rates? And he throws a good ground ball rate, but he was 50 plus in the minors at AA and at AAA as well.
He was, and I think you'll find that of a lot of starting pitchers that they're able to keep the ball off the good part of the bat in the minor leagues, but major league hitters are quite simply a lot better.
So that's just it, just a level jump.
I think so. You know, and a lot of times you'll see this from guys when they come up is that ground ball rate will drop 15% or so, and then it starts to adjust, and it'll never get all the way back. But I wouldn't be surprised if you see Will Warren settle in as a mid to high 40s ground ball rate pitcher. It's just the walks. You know, his control is not great. He doesn't miss bats a ton. He's kind of the definition of a back-end starter where he can handle the lesser offenses of the league for the most part, but he's going to get knocked around against good offenses because he's simply not quite that good.
Let me do some live theory here. That ground ball rate working low in the zone from AAA or from the minors to the majors, that's going to be a big jump because major league hitters are so good at working down in the zone.
Yes.
Beating major league hitters up in the zone is one thing. If you can do it, if you can pitch effectively up in the zone, they're not as used as they are dealing down in the zone. I mean, it's getting more and more up in the zone work because the curveball has come back and the high fastball. We're trying to work the top half of the zone. But if you're a ground ball type pitcher and you're working low in the zone, major league hitters are really good at that. AA hitters, maybe not. Maybe AAA hitters, not quite as well either.
I think you're 100% accurate. Nick Pollack calls it the Blake Snell blueprint. Fastballs up, breaking stuff down.
Yep.
And that simple mix can work. And Ben Brown was doing it effectively for a month to 6 weeks, but it is difficult to be essentially a 2-pitch pitcher in the major leagues. And that's what he was. And that's why the Cubs just sent him back down. They want to work on that changeup so that he can kind of effectively combat lefties a little bit better. I thought that was pretty brassy of the Cubs to do because they have aspirations this year beyond just making the postseason. And Ben Brown could be a critical part of that because he has excellent stuff, but he really does need a third pitch. Could easily come back as a fireman too, kind of a 2-inning reliever one time through the batting order if he can't get a successful third pitch developed. I really like the kid, but 2-pitch pitchers do not work in today's Major League Baseball environment.
Well, barring what I think is going to happen relatively soon, which is a change in roster limits, which is going to allow another reliever in the bullpen because bullpens are getting killed. Right? They're just being stretched too hard. Barring that, what's the emphasis is going to be is finding a Ben Brown type who can do one time through the order, who can do 6 outs and can do 7 outs, because you're going to need them. You're just going to need them to save the bullpen. And
you can't have these 3 or 4 batter guys all throughout your bullpen.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right.
So what was that? There was something else I was going to say. So we're looking at ground ball pitchers being susceptible to that jump to the majors. And it's funny because working up in the zone and working down in the zone, if you can be effective against hitters by getting them to cover changes in speed, which is what they've been doing for years. Think about if you add in a change in eye level, where you're changing up in the zone, down in the zone, they have to cover the whole zone instead of covering the second half. Remember, for years, we interviewed pitching coaches back in the day that were talking about, was it the 216 line? You're trying to pitch low in the zone, and everyone was hitting 216 below that.
Yep.
It's kind of good until hitters kind of zone in on it, and it's like, again, if hitters know where the pitch is going to be and how fast and what it's going to be, they'll hit it. I don't care where it is.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that Tom Glavine would be eminently successful in today's game because he just wore out that low outside corner. And you do that against a guy like Juan Soto, and he's hitting it out to left field.
Well, yeah, that's true. And he would. Well, I was going to say he would never get the pitch calls that he got, Tom Glavine.
Come on now. Yes, he would.
But he would.
That guy had more balls called strikes than any pitcher I have ever seen in my life.
It was
It was
unbelievable.
infuriating.
He had that low and away, and it was just like they just gave
Oh,
it.
yeah, low and away, then lower and awayer, and then lower and awayer.
Low and away. That's right. And I wonder what it was. I wonder if it's Tom Glavine's reputation or whether just movement on the pitch or what it was.
I think it's reputation. It's much like an NBA thing where certain guys get certain calls and other players don't. And it's like, what about me?
Love those Braves teams.
Dylan Cease doesn't get those calls. I'll tell you that.
Dylan Cease does not get those calls. Love those Braves teams.
Yeah, man, they were fun. They were fun, and especially coming off just one of the most wretched periods for that franchise, like just a 10 to 15-year stretch of absolute horror.
But it was
and
a
then
good
all
mix.
of a sudden they were great.
Good mix of talent and personality. And of course, here in Boston, we were getting TBS and we were getting all the games. So, and of course, there's the connection with the Braves anyway.
Well, you got so many Braves and Cub fans littered around the country because everybody had WGN and TBS.
Yep, exactly. And it's just like it was just as much fun as watching your local team because you got to see those guys every day, and they were just damn good.
Maddox, Slavin, Smoltz, Avery, Kevin Millwood. What an awesome rotation!
It's just a good, fun team to watch. Ryan Pepio of the Rays, and his stuff plus scores pretty well, by the way.
As it should, even though the quality contact is probably a little bit subpar, but you know. Pepio, 11.6% swing strike rate is above average. The walk rate's down. The ground ball rate's up. What's not to like? He's been really good. He should regress into the high threes for an ERA, I think. But 12 straight starts of 3 earned runs or fewer, you know, I'm on board. He's steady. And this is classic Tampa Bay stuff. You take a guy basically off the scrap heap and, oh, look, he's our most steady starter.
Yeah, well, you find things in Tampa Bay. We talk about pitchers finding things in Tampa Bay and in Houston.
Tampa Bay and Houston.
You find things.
Look, Colton Gordon.
Okay.
I didn't think he'd be successful at the major league level, but I did pick him up in a couple of leagues because I had to. And all of a sudden, he's 5 shutout, 6 innings, 1 run every start. Those two organizations, more than any other, seem to maximize whatever a pitcher has available to them.
And by the way, he came from the Dodgers, which is a pretty good pitching organization as well.
Yeah. Do you remember the deal that was?
No.
I actually don't off the top of my head.
No, I don't.
Let's see if it comes up here. Regardless,
yeah,
I think in the war of Dodgers versus Rays, I think this is clearly a win for the Rays because you don't get essentially third starting pitchers growing on trees.
Wow.
And they got Pepio. The trade was over the winter in 23-24. But I don't remember what it was.
I don't remember what it was either. But the Dodgers have surplus. They have minor league
surplus. Dodgers surplus everywhere except the pitching injuries have hampered them a little bit. But you know, when you have a $320 million payroll, I think you have surplus everywhere.
Is the ground ball rate good enough?
Good enough? Yeah, I think it's good enough with the improvement in control and the above average K rate. I think it's good enough.
All right, Andrew Abbott,
43%.
Andrew Abbott of the Reds has been hot as late as well. He's got a 1.79 ERA on the year and a 4.03 xFIP. What do we do with this? You
want to sell high guy on this list. I think this is your guy. You know, he has improved the control. K rate's up. xERA is 2.95. So obviously the quality of contact has been pretty solid for him. But the xFIP is 4.04. And here's what I'm looking at with Andrew Abbott is his last 2 home starts. He's allowed 10 runs and 2 homers in each start.
Yeah, that's where I was going. Yep.
Cincinnati in the summertime, the ball just flies out of that park. And Andrew Abbott is a guy with a fly ball rate of over 50%. He's not overpowering by any stretch of the imagination. So I don't care how good his ERA is. He's a streamer for me. And I'm avoiding him against all but the bottom 10 offenses at home, and maybe even some of those, depending on who it is and who's hitting at the time. Like I would avoid him against the Marlins, for example, who have some decent right-handed power. I just think he's tremendously overrated. and I'm selling him wherever I can.
85.8% left on base percentage. His home run per nine the previous 2 seasons were 1.32 and 1.63. It's sub 1 right now. He's got a 7.7 home run to fly ball rate, and he pitches in Cincinnati. That's the question at this point, because when the ball starts flying, which if it hasn't already, it will be very soon, he starts to give up homers again at his normal rate, and then he's a sub 4 pitcher, which is good, but he's not this pitcher.
He's going to give up a homer and a half per 9 at home. If you want that, then, good for you, I suppose. It's not what I'm interested in. I think he'll have some good starts randomly at home, but I think he's going to struggle more often than he doesn't. I'd be happy to start him most of the time on the road. I'll start him very occasionally at home. He's not a bad 7th or 8th pitcher on your staff. I'm fine at that level, but anyone valuing him more highly than that, I think, is overestimating what he's likely to do in the summertime.
Pick your spots. Plus, I'm not entirely convinced of this walk rate gain either, so.
I'd have to say I'm not really either. I think, when we had the bad weather time and he was pitching in conditions favorable to him, he wasn't so worried about the home runs. So, we talk about fear or command. I think he has command, but I think he has fear as well, because he's had 2 years of difficult home run issues. He knows what that's like.
He's hittable, right? So he doesn't want to come in.
He's hittable.
Yeah.
So, I just think, I think we continually, as much as you and I talk about it, I think the industry downplays park effects. And man, summertime in the Midwest, particularly in Cincinnati and Wrigley, it's different. It is a different animal than April and May.
Yeah. Plus, we've talked about this in the spring, so much about putting too much reliance on ERA as a stat. And people look at that stat and they get enamored with what's going on. You got to look underneath the hood, because he's not going to sustain a 1.72 ERA.
But that's good that people do, because you can take a guy like Andrew Abbott and sell him for hopefully 25% more than you would normally get for him.
Market efficiency, right?
Exactly.
That's the fact that it has to be a result stat, and it's a result stat in most formats, and it has to be, and I understand why, but it's a horrible stat. Just a horrible stat.
Well, it's an unpredictable stat.
Yeah.
So it has to, because ultimately we measure the game in runs. So it has to be involved. But you have to understand result versus predictability.
Right. Yeah.
And there is no predictability in ERA, just as there's none in wins.
But it depends on what, and we're getting into philosophical here. We're getting back into Roto is stupid.
Well,
but if your philosophy
back to something, there are reasons.
If the game is to pick talent, right? ERA doesn't show us talent. It's not a great gauge of talent.
ERA shows us luck and talent.
Yeah. Yeah, in various degrees.
In that order.
Yeah. All right. So Dave Peterson is a guy that I have in the team I took over in Michael Waldo's league as well. And I don't know what to do with him at this point. I get hands up here.
I've got him in my strat league. And you know what? Here's another guy I've come full circle on. I thought he was garbage 3 years ago. And honestly, he kind of was. But the walk rate has dropped. Ground ball rate's up to 57%. Exit velocity is below average. So he's favorable quality of contact now. The chase rate is up over 30%, which is kind of league average-ish now. 10.4% swing strike rate, barely under league average. Like the arrows are pointing up for David Peterson, and 7 of 9 quality starts. That's why he's on this list. I think he's still a streamer for me, but he's one of those streamers that I'm trusting over 3/4 of the time. I think he's become a pretty good pitcher.
And he gives up 8 runs in 11 innings in the last 2 starts.
These things happen.
Ready to buy in.
These things happen. It's summertime, so I'm not going to get too bent out of shape. He's down to 3 walks per 9. That was always, I think, going to be the issue for me, is when you're around 4 walks per 9, you better be darn good. And he wasn't that good.
And he's not too homer susceptible. If we're looking at the 3 tiers, he gave up 2 homers in his first start, gave up 2 homers at Philly in his most recent start. It's going to happen in Philly in June.
Yeah.
On occasion, so we can write that off a little bit. So that's something in his favor. He can control the walks. Strikeouts haven't been great, but they've been fine, right? But the ground ball rate is what's important.
The ground ball rate is the biggest thing here. And, let's not poo-poo the cutting the walk rate by 1 per 9 over the last 2 years. Going from 4 to 3 is a big deal. 3 is average. 4 is bad. 2 is elite. I mean, these are the margins we're talking about. So he's gone from a terrible control pitcher to average. He's gone from an average ground ball pitcher to elite.
Yep.
These are excellent moves. And so he's average at Ks, he's average at walks, and he's very good at limiting homers.
They're correlated because, again, it's down to fear and mechanics. And it's like he doesn't have great stuff. He didn't want to come into the zone. But if you can start drawing ground balls, you get more confident about being in the zone and not walking guys.
Exactly. And I think that that's what we've seen. 3 of 4 years, David Peterson has an XFIP of under 3.6, which is a good standard deviation better than league average. So I think at this point, we just have to say he's a pretty good pitcher. It's not like a dominant pitcher, but he's pretty decent.
And history has shown it, right? His last 35 starts, I don't know what the ERA is. It's around 290, 291, 292. That's pretty good for over a long stretch.
It's fine.
He's right
fine.
now. Yeah.
He's not somebody. There are categories of good pitchers. And, there are guys where every start guys, like Dylan Cease, for example, because you just can't predict when he's going to get hit. You just know that occasionally it's going to happen.
Yeah. So
David Peterson,
you sit him against the Dodgers in the second start, he throws 6 shutout innings, and then Miami gets to him for 8.
Yeah. I mean, these things happen.
Yeah.
But David Peterson, he's not an every start guy.
No.
He's maybe an 80% start guy, which is good. Certainly top 50.
Oh, yeah. Oh, useful pitcher. And one of those guys who can help solidify those top pitchers you have at the start. That second tier that you and I talked about in your pitching staff.
An SP4, maybe. Okay, cool.
Dylan Cease or Sonny Gray?
Dylan Cease.
Yeah.
Love
I'm sorry, not Dylan Cease or Sonny Gray. David Peterson or Sonny Gray.
Oh, well, that's Sonny Gray for one more year.
Yeah, for one more year. All right, you broke the ice on Adrian Hauser earlier. What's going on with Adrian in his 2.27 ERA?
2.27 ERA, 3.24 xERA, because the quality of contact has actually been surprisingly good. But the xFIP's 4.16, and for me, xFIP is still a relevant indicator, especially in this June time period, because it's essentially showing you who might be susceptible to more home runs as the weather warms up. That's the way I look at it anyway.
Yep.
And Hauser is certainly one of those guys because he is not a dominant pitcher. 8.8% swing strike rate, despite the velocity being up 1.5 miles per hour, which that is not an insignificant jump at velo.
No.
That's big. You get over 1 mile per hour, and that is something that matters. And he still can't get to league average in terms of missing bats with that. So Adrian Hauser is not a guy that I'm interested in. He has 5 of 6 quality starts in his last 6. But San Francisco at home and Colorado on the road are the next 2. So if you have him, I'd get rid of him. If you don't pick him up. Yeah,
it just comes down to you went right to xFIP, and that's basically home runs. That normalizes home runs. So I go to home run to fly ball rate, 5.7%. That's too low for him. He can't sustain that.
It's half what it should be.
Half what it should be, exactly. And that's just spring coming into dog days, right?
You got it.
And
I think it's just a good number to look at for that.
Yeah, you set it up perfectly. He's more susceptible to giving up more home runs, which is going to affect his effectiveness. If I can double that up,
I will go so far as to predict a Rafael Devers home run against Adrian Hauser in his next start, which I believe is Saturday.
Stop it.
Gonna happen.
Why'd you have to go?
Put it in the book, or as Hawk Harrelson would say, you can put it on the board.
Yes. Hawk Harrelson,
the biggest homer announcer of all homer announcers of all time.
That's not how I remember him. I remember him as a player.
Yeah, I mean, I do too. We're of an age, but
jackets.
I don't listen to a lot of White Sox games, unfortunately, or I did before they became horrible.
Sean Burke with the White Sox.
Yeah, speaking of the White Sox. So, okay, this is our last guy, and I want to actually make a point here that I haven't seen anyone in the industry because I don't believe that he is a third owned in any format. We talk about velocity jumps mattering, especially when they get to be over 1 mile an hour.
Mm-hmm.
They usually don't happen in season. Usually it's something that just comes right out of the gate, spring training, first part of the season. You see it then, and they just ramp from there.
Right.
So Sean Burke, he's allowed 2 runs or fewer in 5 of his last 6 and 8 of his last 10. But it's the last 3 starts where all of a sudden he's up like 1.5 miles per hour. One of those starts, he actually got hit around by the Astros. But the Ks are up, the walks are down. All of a sudden, this kid looks like he can pitch. And yeah, I know he's on the White Sox. It's not exciting. Certainly doesn't mean high likelihood of wins, which of course we throw out the window anyway because we know they're not very predictable.
Mm-hmm.
But swing strike rate is up significantly over the last 5 starts. The velo's up over the last 3. The walk rate is down over the last 5. Like all these trends are really good. Kid's only 25 years old. He's still learning on the job here. I'm kind of excited. I think I actually don't know if he's owned in Tout Wars right now, but if he's not, I'm putting a fab bid in for him Sunday. Mostly because I have 11 pitchers in the IL and I could use any warm body right now. But I'm actually excited here. I think that there is some potential. There
is. It just still seems to be a bit of a Russian roulette feel to him at this point.
Well, I'm not expecting him to be my number 2 starter.
No, I understand.
But, a guy that can give me some good starts with a decent ceiling, that's somebody that needs to be rostered in most formats.
One of the things most
2 wins or fewer in 8 out of 10 starts. I mean, by any stretch, that is successful.
The velocity jump is impressive, as you talked about, but also he had a control jump about 5 or 6 or 7 starts ago as well.
He did. Yeah, and I think that's confidence probably more than anything.
Well, again, that's a great point because we talk about whether it's mechanical or whether it's fear. If you gain a foot of velocity, you're more willing to come in the zone and challenge hitters a little bit. And it's more desirable than walking them.
Well, plus he's a young kid. He hasn't pitched at the major league level very much. So that confidence is going to grow with success, and he's had some. So I'm pretty impressed here. Honestly, I think I'm picking him up in just about every format.
Yeah, hadn't had a 6 strikeout performance until Texas, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 in the last 6 starts, and 5 and 4 in the other 2 starts. So the strikeout rate is up, walk rate is down. So
the velo is the biggest thing for me. 1.5 mile jump in the middle of the season is no joke.
No, I wonder where he found that.
I don't know, and I don't want to speculate.
Just keep an eye on it and see if it keeps going, right?
Hey, I'm on board. I mean, you need to take chances in formats of any depth or quality. You need to take some chances. And this is an aggressive move that I think could pay off.
All right. Everybody head over to insideofbaseball.com. Schuyler's writing is up today if you're watching this podcast today and on occasionally, but check out our writers every day at the baseball blog at insideofbaseball.com. If you're a non-subscriber, it's all free to you. You can get a sample of what we send out to our subscribers every day, plus take a look at some of our tools and what we use to help you win championships and some of this insight that we talked about today. Enjoyed the hell out of it, Schuyler, as always.
Absolutely, my friend. Same here.
All right, we'll talk to you next time. In the meantime, insideofbaseball.com. We're not working on a schedule, so don't look for us at a scheduled time, but we'll be back soon.
Hey, 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 yo!